Hello, my friends. This is the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twin Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. And that's not just blowing smoke. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Cool breeze in my head, bittersweet smoke flying through the air. It's the way I feel, smoking on a fine cigar.
Hey, everybody. It is time for Not Just Blowing Smoke. I got a little distracted there. That was Jeff Pitchell's Fat Cigar you were listening to. That means it's time for Not Just Blowing Smoke. We're coming at you live from the deck of the 724 Lounge, and this is the first time we're doing an outdoor show, so this is going to be fun to do. Wherever you're streaming from, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube, or if you're listening after the fact, wherever you got your podcast from, make sure you hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen so that you don't ever miss a thing. I'm Pastor Padron. I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat and Dave. We have Bree with us from the 724 Lounge. Debris. And tonight we are doing our kind of what was kind of like a classic show. We're doing a cigar and then we're going to follow it up with the pipe tobacco, both of which are new. And the cigar we're doing is this. It is the Lomo de Cerdo, a.k.a. the pork tenderloin, the Tuxla edition from Tatuaje. Just hit stores this past week. Pat, what can you tell us about this cigar that we're smoking and that you're desperately trying to light?
It is a cigar.
That's very good, Pat. This is a cigar, people.
It's also brown.
It's the pork tenderloin, which is arguably Tatuaje's best release. It's part of the meat series. It comes in the meat packaging, the whole nine. The blend on it, this specific one has a Mexican San Andreas wrapper on it, which is what Tuxla means. Tuxla is the main municipality in Mexico where the tobacco industry is there. So this is Tuxla, Mexican San Andreas. And the blend is based off of the original, obviously, pork tenderloin, which had a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, a Nicaraguan binder, and the same filler blend as the J21, which is another one of Tatuaje's well-known releases. So this one just has a San Andreas wrapper on it, opposed to the Connecticut broadleaf.
Right, and it's a Robusto. It's 5 1/8 by 52.
Yep, the big brother of the pork chop.
The big brother of the pork chop, the tenderloin. And a little over, 1,800, was it 1,800 packs?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It wasn't a huge release.
Yeah, it was a little over that from what I read on Half Wheel.
Yeah, because usually the companies make more than they're planning because of, quality control.
Stuff happens, yeah. So we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show, but it comes in a bundle, not in a box, and it's wrapped to make it look like something you get from a butcher shop. And it actually, says the Lomo de Cerdo on it. It nowhere on the packaging does it say pork tenderloin. But Lomo de Cerdo, that's what that means. Is pork tenderloin. The green and silver Tuxla band and colors are on the cigar as well as on the packaging. And we are pairing something special with this tonight. We don't often do wine. Do you want to talk to us about the stuff we're drinking with this, Bree?
Yeah, so like you said, it's kind of interesting. A lot of times, as many people as there are that drink wine with cigars, it's not a easy to pair spirit with cigars for a lot of different reasons. But this is actually a new red wine that we just brought into Twins at the 724 Lounge. and it's called Costa de Mori Montepulciano di Abruzzo. So,
Bless you.
a bit of a mouthful, but if you're ordering it, Costa di Moro for short. It's described as an exuberant and complex wine with a warm and silky mouthfeel and notes of black cherry, cocoa, raspberry, tobacco, and almond. So it's kind of interesting reading up on their story. So they age the wine for 4 months, half in oak barrels, and then the other half of the time in stainless steel.
Weird.
So the grapes are
Gives you that
destemmed and
tinny
crushed, and then the skins are left in contact with the must and their indigenous yeast for 10 to 15 days. So yeah, seems like a revolutionary wine process. I'm not really sure.
And Pete Johnson's into wine and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons I thought this pairing would actually, might actually work, because
and
that's
concept-wise,
something.
meat, wine.
Yep,
Hey.
meat and wine, red meat.
It's interesting.
Well,
But
pork.
yeah.
Pork is the other white thing.
Yeah.
It's also organic and biodynamic and vegan. They say it's a certified wine, certified vegan.
Now,
not
is
sure
there
who really...
such a thing as a wine that is not certified vegan?
That's a good question.
I'm
Bacon
literally,
wine.
Yeah, I'm wondering the same
I'm
thing
literally
because
asking.
it seems to be a selling point. Just like how Tito's came
Yeah.
out and they're like, "Oh, we have gluten-free vodka," and you're
Yep.
like, "Yeah, but
It never had gluten.
yeah, it's like
yeah,
peanuts, they're gluten free. Well, of course they're gluten free. It's not wheat. It's a nut.
Yeah.
It's funny how that selling point actually, they'll promote that on things that have absolutely nothing to do with it. But
Our cigars are gluten free.
they are. This one in particular, it actually says
Pure
gluten
vegan.
free on the package.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to take a trip to Italy and find out ourselves."
I'd be very interested if there are wines
Not
that
just blowing smoke and
actually
living.
can't say they're vegan.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting
What are they
topic for
putting in-
next
yeah,
week.
What are they putting in those
Maybe-
barrels?
maybe-
They can't say
Maybe
they're
I'll do
vegan.
some research on that this week.
Well, there's got to be a bacon wine out there somewhere.
Oh, Dave,
They make bacon
Dave,
everything.
Stop. No bacon wine
They
talking.
make bacon beer.
If
they
that's-
make bacon bourbon. They
No.
make- Yep.
They put hops and stuff in there that makes it taste like that. Nobody drops bacon into a barrel and ages it.
I mean, I might, but
Oh yeah, that
No.
sounds like a good idea.
No,
Although,
that sounds
like-
horrible.
now that I'm
Grapes
going to
wrapped
bring
in
it back
bacon.
here for a second. So with that, their whole vegan title, they have a philosophy that kind of tells you a little bit about their process. They say,
Yeah.
Lunaria promotes love for the land and its inhabitants. The biodynamic process is built to sustain the wildlife and the surrounding preserve. Sharing Abruzzo culture, Lunaria uses the traditional old country style rope for the wine seal. The rope tying process is entrusted to the Babalu, the friendship farm, supporting employment for persons with special needs. So they have a lot of causes they're advocating for. And if you notice the bottle, they have that rope that's tied around it. So that's what they're referencing there. Yeah. Interesting. Really cool wine.
Does anyone remember the handicap act from that old Fox comedy show in the 90s? No? Do you?
What was it from?
I can't remember the name of the show. It's probably been banned
Like
from...
Saturday Night Live.
It was a Saturday Night Live thing, but it was like on Fox or something. I can't remember the name of the show. But one of the little skits
It wasn't
they
Mad
normally did,
TV. It was
they did the handicap.
in living color.
In Living Color, maybe
Yep.
it was, yeah. In Living Color. You don't ever remember that? They had this handicapped,
Bree wasn't around then.
this handicapped black guy. He was dressed as a superhero.
My
and he'd,
parents watched that show.
He'd like
actually.
hobble
Yeah.
over to the window and drop himself out, and then they'd show him flying all like cripple-like through the air, and he'd say, "Never underestimate the power of the handicap." And I'm like, you could never get away with that today. But that's what I think of when I
Oh
see.
boy, we're
I
gonna
look
get
at
canceled.
That's what I'm saying.
But it is,
Pat and I are just looking at each other like,
yeah.
Yeah.
You still love me, Bree?
oh my god.
No. It's okay.
So we're gonna cut
I
this part
still-
out, right?
I still have my mother. Oh my goodness. Trying to get back on the track into something that might not actually get us canceled. How was everybody's Easter?
It was small and quiet, wonderful. We had ham and loaded mashed potatoes and a green bean casserole that I tweaked with some garlic and herbs and spices, and
Yeah.
it came out fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
How come you didn't have mom with you?
Because she was with you.
Oh.
Yeah, and she said she had a blast.
She did. She did. She also says that you never actually talked to her about Easter. Ever.
This is awkward.
She called me and said, I'm not having Easter with anyone. I'm going to be alone. And then hung up the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I invited mom to come to Easter with us, and she had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. But didn't you say? And I'm trying to get this on actual recorded record. You did talk with mom.
I did
About-
talk with Mom.
Yes.
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 And I said, I don't know what I'm going to be doing because I didn't know if both the boys were going to be working. It turned out Eli had to work, but not Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And she just opted not to do anything with you. Right.
yeah.
Right.
She
Yeah.
said, don't worry about it. I have food coming in. It's not
Yep.
a big deal. I'm going to see you Tuesday, which we did.
Mhm.
We all met the boys. We went over today. Had a nice pizza lunch.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I saw the pictures.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Very good. Very good. So now you know what I did. I took my mom to the in-laws and everything. And I'm fortunate in that my parents and my wife's parents were very close. And so we've never really had to worry about, like, whose house do we go
Yeah,
over
it
to?
was
Who do
always
we
nice.
who do we not offend this year, this holiday? And so the fact that, my mom, now Mandy's mom passed away several years ago. Our dad passed away several years ago. So my mom and her dad still stay in touch. It was great for them to have some good time together and everything, and that was really good. But again, same thing. Ham, all the fixings. We ended up having a great time. But what does Easter look like in Bree world?
I had a very non-conventional Easter this year
Yeah.
because I grew up in a very religious family, so
Yeah.
every Easter was a big deal. We had to go to church. We went to my grandparents.
Did
we
you
made
go to
food.
church?
No, this year. So most of my family is now like in different parts of the country. Like my
Okay.
parents down south. My grandmother passed away. Like my aunt's up here, but everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So I just took this Easter as a time to celebrate the spring equinox and reconnect with nature, get some cleaning done,
Get
and
some cleaning done.
celebrate everything coming back to life and warming up.
Clean up the debris.
Yeah, exactly. Only partially though, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you eat anything?
I celebrated the spring equinox. Yeah, and I ate at Pressed Cafe.
You ate at Pressed Cafe.
Yeah,
What's
it's this
that?
really good little like they do like pressed juices. They make all sorts of like healthy quinoa bowls.
Are they vegan?
No, God no. They're
Okay.
yeah. I mean, they have vegan options.
They have
but,
vegan
yeah,
options.
they are not fully vegan because
Are
I love
you
cheese
vegan?
too much.
Are you vegan?
I love cheese too much.
You love cheese too
Yes.
much.
Cheese and eggs and
Bacon.
yes.
Yes.
and
Yes.
bacon.
We know Bree loves her bacon.
Cheese.
Yes.
Yes.
Cheese, yes.
It's
Mostly
cheese, yeah.
cheese.
What about you, Pat? What did you do for Easter? Do you still do Easter egg hunts at your house?
No,
No?
just had family over and good food. My brother sporadically proposed that no one knew about, so that happened. So
To you?
no, to his girlfriend. So it was good.
Okay. To a woman?
Yeah, it
To
was.
his yes?
Yeah, to a nice woman.
Okay, very good. I'm just making it clear. You didn't make that very clear.
Thought it was implied.
Wow.
You obviously have not been paying attention to the last few, years in the United States here. You can't assume that.
Yeah. This is just
You can't assume that.
this episode's not making it to YouTube.
All the more reason we can just, talk like we normally would, in the lounge and everything.
So we have 10 minutes of usable footage.
Is anyone still listening, Dave?
Let's see. No comments yet.
No comments yet. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's good. So
we have a lone person on Facebook and 2 people on YouTube. So.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Pat, about the cigar here. We've talked in the past about the whole thing that some cigars, are doing, being named after food or flavors or things like that. And there's people who think that that is really hurting the industry. That when you start talking about a cigar like it's, a pork tenderloin, that's going to pull underage people's interest into the cigar. So you don't do it. This cigar, this is what you get out of the pack. This doesn't have any kind of special marking on it or anything. But the packaging it comes in, it's designed to look like it's a pack of meat. And it's got the label on it is designed to look like the label that you get on the pack of meat, and where the ingredients would be, there are actually instructions for safe handling and using and lighting and enjoying the cigar. But it's all meant to look like a piece of food. Mm-hmm. Is this good for the industry? Is this bad? What do you think of this? Are we going to see a review of this cigar on Half Wheel, which has said they're never doing a review of any cigar that is food-based related?
Yeah, so I'm going back to the episode we talked about the was it Brookstone? It was some kind of ice cream brand, right? Not Brookstone. It was it's a Rocky Road or something like that. It was like an ice cream branded cigar, and post that episode, I kind of did my own research on like the industry drama behind it. And I just think a lot of the legacy brands and like the old school people don't really like Privada Cigar Club, which is who produced that cigar. So, I think one of the things that a lot of people are trying to do, and mind you, like Pete Johnson, the pork tenderloin, the meat series came out. I forget when, but it was some time ago. This isn't like a new thing.
Like 2010, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to like, I'll answer it in different spurs. So to begin with this specific cigar in meat packaging, I don't think there's any fear of any minors or anyone like that looking at it. For one, I don't think you can even get this thing anywhere other than a 21 and up store or 21 and up website, which again, you can just say you're 21, but legally you act like that's the barrier. Like
right.
If the minor's going in still, it's someone else's fault, not the company's. But I don't think this cigar, I can say with assurance that this cigar is not going to cause any issues in that realm. I think a lot of what people are targeting is, a lot of your cigar smokers, it's like the age of nostalgia. Like everyone's doing nostalgic things to kind of attract people to the product. And I think that something that Privada Cigar Club has been doing is using those nostalgic characters to kind of bring people in, and like those Elmo cigars, Sesame Street, like what was it, Big Bird? It had like the Yellow Bird band on it, and I think that Half Wheel's perspective is, it's tough for us to argue the FDA that we're not trying to attract minors when we have these cartoons on it, but on the other end of things, those cartoons is what people that are no longer minors were watching, and it's. So I don't think this specific product is going to have any issues, and I honestly don't think many products that do it should have many issues. That's just my opinion. It's one thing if I go to a gas station and I see like a Rocky Road ice cream thing, with cigars in it, with, just anyone can walk in there and see that. So again, I'm not sure if that's what was happening, and if that is, for one, I'm against gas station cigars in general. Like, I don't think any premium cigars should be in a gas
I think
station.
the cigars are against gas station cigars.
Yeah. So, but with this cigar, I really don't see a problem with it. I mean, again, like, you look at the meat packaging, it's identical to what you would get at a butcher shop. But again, like, it's a really generic kind of concept. Like, the pork tenderloin. It's not like if I was someone like on the FDA side looking at this, like a pork tenderloin, it's a really broad kind of thing. It's not like, I don't think a kid's gonna walk by, oh, pork tenderloin, I could smoke one of those things. It's not like if you have like Rocky Road ice cream or like Munchies cigars or anything of that sort. I would argue like, like the new like breakfast tacos we have would be more of an appeal to minors, but I still don't see any appeal I mean, again, you have like the colors of the band and everything like that, but it's, I think the appealing to minors with marketing and cigars is kind of a frivolous argument. Like I really don't, even if you use like a Sesame Street cartoon logo on a cigar, I still don't see the product attracting a minor. I really don't. It's one thing if it was like an ice cream cigar and the cigar tasted like ice cream, and then that's in a gas station somewhere, but I really don't see this being a problem. And I actually see it as a really good marketing technique from Pete. Like, it's unique, and I think the industry doesn't have a lot of unique things right now coming out, so it's good to see that Pete brought back that original unique concept he had.
Right. I haven't had the previous releases of the tenderloin. You have. How do you think this compares to previous releases, the original release?
So I'll say that in general, the Tuxla series, they did the Avion, the T110, the 7th. I thought they're not bad cigars, but I didn't think they were better than the originals. And, Pete has a thing where he just does different wrappers on existing blends. I mean, we talked about this earlier, and it's not a bad thing. But the Tuxlas were definitely, like, my least favorite wrapper change he's done. But the pork tenderloin, comparing it to the original, again, the original that I had, Twins had a pack that we sold. It was probably a year and a half ago now. So those cigars were from 10 years ago.
Right.
So out of the box, I really can't speak to it, but the original pork tenderloin was absolutely phenomenal cigar. Like, it just, that broadleaf just aged so well, like most tats do.
Yeah.
And it just had like this really, really pronounced sweetness, I remember, and it just kind of matched with like, it had that really kind of floral sweetness you kind of get out of a Cuban cigar. And it had a really like rich, refined oak note. It was just super creamy. Had a little bit of like a touch of spice on it. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal cigar. And then the Tuxla version of it, it's good. It's my favorite Tuxla, and I think it's the closest to point with the previous blend. It's closer for sure. I think that I think some people might like the Tuxla more than the original pork tenderloin if they've ever had it. I think that this cigar specifically brings out more of those kind of Nicaraguan flavors. Like, it's a lot more spice forward. It has like a kind of a darker, to me, like when I have a clean palate, when I first smoked it, it had like that kind of hickory spice sweetness of the wood. And then just like that sweetness that was forward on the original pork tenderloin seems to come on the finish. And again, that's just San Andreas. It depends what San Andreas wrapper you're using, but sometimes they're pretty sweet forward or the sweet following. And this one's the latter. It's going to be that sweetness is kind of lingering on the back end of the profile. But, with that, like taking, I just, it sucks you can't get the original pork tenderloin. Right. They would be a really interesting kind of back-to-back. Right. I think this is a really good cigar, and I think it just kind of speaks to what the wrapper can do to a really, really good blend. And it's good in its own way, but like when I had the other Tuxlas, I was like, they're not bad, but they're not like I'd rather smoke the core line. If pork tenderloins were just readily available, like the original ones, I would definitely rotate between the two here.
Yeah. What do you think of the cigar and the pairing, Dave?
I think the pairing is right on. I think the wine is definitely making the sweetness linger longer, and I'm getting this really nice creamy spice in my retro ale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the wine is helping that as well. Yeah.
What do you think, Bree?
Very pleasantly surprised. Anytime that I've had wine with a cigar, I've found that my palate was really dry and almost like they drowned each other out. And it's kind of interesting looking at the tasting notes between this cigar and the wine, where the wine had like the tobacco, the raspberries, like implying it might have that kind of like smoky aged sweetness under it. And then this cigar, I am also getting that like hickory spice sweetness that Pat was describing. And it's also really refined with that slight hint of spice. So my palate is very wet. It's not at all like unpleasant. It's very complimentary.
Yeah, I think the wine is going really well with the cigar. I think it brings out the sweetness. I think it complements the earthiness of the cigar. And the red wine and the cocoa notes of the San Andreas, I think, play really well together, too. So I think you're getting a lot of complex things going on with the pairing.
And the funny story of the wine is Tyler had come, I think it was probably around 2 weeks ago now, and we did a wine tasting because we wanted to kind of amp up what we had at the lounge.
Right.
And I was smoking a Tatuaje Brown Label 7th when I was tasting the wines, and then this one came out because Cab does really well at the lounge. So, this specific wine is a Old World red, obviously. And the first thing that I noticed about it, which I don't know if you guys are wine people, I mean, I'm trying to be a wine person. I'm not by any means a sommelier. But if you look at the light and you just flick the glass down a little bit like this, like that violet velvet color hue to it attracted me because it was just different than all the other reds we had. And then like the legs on it, the tannins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
then-
legs are beautiful.
Like the aroma is what initially spoke to me when I was having the cigar, because when you smoke the brown label Tatuaje, you get that very Cuban-esque kind of floral kind of, like aging room cedar aroma in the room. And then when I did the nose with this wine, I got kind of a jammy tobacco kind of aroma to it. So it was very complimentary just in the room note. And then like sipping it, again, it has like that. Sometimes cabs can be pretty dry. It depends which one you go with, and then sometimes it can be sweeter. This one to me was kind of right in the middle. Like it has a nice mouthfeel to it, to where, but it's not too much of a mouthfeel where the pairing would have to be a food. So I think that if you have a good cigar, like for instance, like the 7th I was smoking has like that kind of creamy and like I'll call it a wet smoke. It's more of a savory smoke. It kind of makes you salivate a little bit. Without having to like have food with it, it kind of put my palate back to a neutral position, and then those nice kind of sweet fruity jam notes like the cocoa. I got a little bit of anise out of it, like a little bit of an anise spice, and then like that tobacco finish on it was just like spot on, and it just went so well, and that's why I haven't had it with the pork tenderloin yet, but it just is just like the other tat I had. It's a really, really good pairing. This would go well with so many cigars. That's why we picked it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is going to be a great wine up at the lounge.
This would be a great nightcap after a night out at a steakhouse.
Oh, yeah. It'd be great at the steakhouse.
Yeah.
But this cigar would totally follow up a good steak.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we already kind of hinted at this, Pat, but one of Pete Johnson's things that he really likes to do is to show off how changing the wrapper changes the cigar, how much of the wrapper actually affects the rest of the blend. And it's become kind of his modus operandi to take a blend and put a new wrapper on it. And then a couple of years later, he'll put another kind of wrapper on it. Then a couple of years later, he'll do another kind of wrapper. And you know, this, when I saw this and, you know, the whole Tuxla thing coming out, you know, and all of the, you know, the first 3 Tuxlas came out last year. I started thinking, you know, I know that if you were going to ask Pete, he would say, I'm trying to educate people about how changing one thing about a blend changes the entire experience. You know, but I can't help but wonder whether, can you not think of anything new? I mean, you take a blend that you had, why not do the thing that people enjoyed 10 years ago? Why put a different wrapper on it that may or may not make it better than the original? You know, so is it, you know, like creative fatigue? Do you think
It might be options too.
that might be
Like,
this,
broadleaf has been really hard to get lately, and
or do you think it's, you know, the FDA with all of its threatenings and stuff that he just doesn't feel like it's worth the effort to put a whole new blend together or something? You know, this tobacco we have is good. Let's try it on that. So is it educational? Is it a sign of creative fatigue? Is it a sign of the FDA oversight of things, you know, and just kind of being careful, not really putting so much effort into it because you might get spanked anyway? What do you think's going on here?
So I would say it's more of a, like, if you really were in Pete's head, or I guess if I was in Pete's position, my answer to it would be, I don't want to say it's solely a marketing thing, but if you look at, like, the origins of Tatuaje, like, early, like, mid-2000s, you know, it was immediately a cultist brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, when Tatuaje first came out with the brown label, you couldn't get the stuff. It was sold out everywhere. And then in this case, the meat series, I wish I remember the name of the shop. It was in Massachusetts, Boston. The owner's name was Pork Chop. I forget. But,
Gloucester Street Cigars.
Yes.
That's where they were originally made.
So
for, yes.
this cigar was made for Gloucester Street Cigars in the peak of the Tatuaje demand.
Mm-hmm.
And this shop not only had Tatuaje, but it had an exclusive Tatuaje. So, with that being said, like, a lot of the things Pete does turns into, because of this cult following he has, it just picks up traction. And I think that when it comes to him switching the wrappers, I mean, if you look at, like, the primary portfolio of Tatuaje, he does the Habano Rosado, which is on his brown labels, and then the Escasos is a higher priming. He has the Ecuadorian Sumatra, and then he has the broadleaf, and then all 3 of those tobaccos has, like, this cult following for it, right? Like, he switches these wrappers, and it's like, oh, you know, like the PCA and the TAA came out. Same cigar, Sumatra, broadleaf. Again, and then people that are the consumers of his are going to, like, want to get those because it's the Sumatra and the broadleaf version of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when it comes to the meat series, if he released the meat series, it's going to sell. If he does the Tuxla, which is San Andreas wrapper, is cheaper than broadleaf, so it could be to Dave's point,
Yep.
it's going to sell. And it's also something new. And, you know, the Tuxla series very well could become another wrapper that Pete's starting to utilize, because I think he had teased that he may continually release a Tuxla series. So, I think it is an educational thing, but that wasn't, like, the intent of it. I just think that he has blends that never died out, and then he just, like, and he's very smart with his production because he doesn't keep releasing it. Like, for instance, like the J21,
Right.
he did a re-release of it, I want to say it was like a year and a half ago. So we had a short run of those, and that cigar with the Tat following is like one of those, like, if you see it, get it. It came originally in 50 count cabinets. I don't remember if it was 50 count cabinet when it came out again, but it's going to sell. So you know, you have a cigar here, and you're going to market it as, and again, when I was reading on the blend of it to double check, you know, my notes on it, it's advertised as a J21 filler blend. So you're using an old cigar that had a cult following for it on this. You're using an old concept that had a cult following, and now you put a new wrapper on it. It's no brainer. It's going to sell. Like, we got, like, what, 50 bundles at Twins? They'll be gone.
Yeah.
You know, and you could have done the old thing too, but
Right.
again, like the profit margin, it might be better doing the San Andreas on it, but it's also, you know, you could do a release of 1,800 bundles of the original one. You already know it's going to sell, or you can use kind of the coattails of that release and do a new blend of it, and then that's going to sell. And then maybe this is something that you can more regularly produce than the other one, because again, broadleaf is a little bit harder to get,
Right.
and that might be why he did the Tuxla series, because again, we had. To me, like when I first started at Twins, I think it was like the San Andreas boom. Like it seems like every
Yeah,
cigar that
San
came
Andreas
out.
Oh my gosh,
everywhere.
yeah, so
And
true.
honestly, San Andreas is stock cut, it's cured. It's pretty similar how it's done in Connecticut. And, you know, when I started here is when, like, the marijuana business started buying broadleaf and using broadleaf to be, you know, rolling papers for marijuana. So I think that naturally, it's like a lot of companies are utilizing San Andreas now, so that may very well be why the Tuxlas came to be, because instead of doing these reserve of broadleaf releases, now he has another wrapper that he can utilize to keep doing these releases, and then using the previous cult following brands to kind of capitalize on that. Because most of the things Pete does, like, honestly, name one cigar Pete's done in the past year and a half that's been a regular production cigar. I don't think there's one.
No.
I really don't.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's the other part of it too. Is like, I think if Pete has a blend that he smokes and he's like, oh, "This is awesome," you know, he's gonna. That's a part in it too. Like, I think for me, this hits like a lot of my favorite tastes in a cigar. Like, I love this. I'm loving this. This is definitely one of my favorite tats that I've
Do you
ever
like
had.
it, Dave?
I like it a lot. I do.
Because I'll be honest, if I own a brand myself, I would probably copy everything Pete's doing. Because, like, you have core line cigars that people love,
Right.
like the Versailles, the Brown Label,
Mm-hmm.
the Tatuaje Blacks. You know, different wrappers. You know, you have Sumatra, you have Broadleaf, and you have a Habano. Just core line, they're good cigars. People buy them if they see them. It's like a daily rotation for a lot of people. But now that he has solidified that kind of thing, then you have the Escassos, which is kind of to me, a better version of the Brown Label. You know, that's for selected retailers. So it's readily available to selected retailers now.
Right.
And then everything else he's doing now that he has this foundation is just these limited releases. So they don't get watered out. And then again, like every crop of tobacco is going to be different. So he doesn't have to deal with that. You just do a limited release. You put it out. It's as good as you want it to be. It's with that crop. And
It's really
it's
smart
gone.
marketing.
It's pretty similar.
It really
Again,
is.
like
It's
maybe
simple.
I'm just kind of going on a tangent here with it, but Pete's a big wine guy. Whenever you buy wine, there's a vintage on it, right? And then like that vintage is what people go for if it's a good year. So he might be doing it as like a vintage thing. Like he has a 2020 crop. What am I going to do with it? Let's go back to the 2018 crop. What am I going to do with it? So he's not releasing these things as a regular production cigar because he's going to a certain vintage crop and he's making something out of that. I honestly, genuinely think that's what he's probably doing because he's such a wine geek. So he might look at what they're doing and be like, okay, this is something I can do.
No, I think you're right.
He had made a cigar. The Voku 2013
Right.
was a vintage crop, and it said it came out in 2016, and it had the band on it says 2013 vintage. I think it said vintage on it. I smoked one literally on Sunday, and I can't remember it. But that's literally like he did that because of wine. Like that, 2016, he took the 2013 crop, limited release Versailles. Versailles, am I saying that wrong? Versailles? Yeah, no. Yeah. Voku? It might be Voku. I think it's Voku. But yeah, whatever. So I think that's what he does. And I think
Veracruz?
Veracruz,
That's
that's
what I
what it
was
is.
trying.
So
Veracruz.
I think that's what he honestly does. And again, here, very
Can
well.
you tell I'm not a total tat freak? It took me
No.
that long to figure out he was saying Veracruz.
I just didn't want to say it. I was like, I
But-
think it's very cute, but it might not be.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, again, the fillers in this cigar being the J21, it could be the fillers from the J21 release that came out last time he released it. It could be the same fillers from the crop that came when he originally released the J21. You don't know, but that would be my guess with Pete, because he uses a lot of tobacco from Pepin Garcia, and if you smoke his cigars, to me, that's a noticeable difference, with the exception of the Monster Series. I think the Monster Series kind of blends in with my father's profile. But it's very unique cigars from a factory that is well known for what they do.
Yeah.
And that's, if I had to just throw a dart at the dartboard, that's what I'd say he's doing of all these limited releases and just doing different wrappers on vintage crops.
All right.
Well, we're getting a lot of positive feedback on the show. Everybody seems to be liking it, especially the outdoor thing. Yeah.
Is anyone talking about what we're talking about, or just that we're outside?
Yeah, just that we're outside. Great show, guys. Show's great so far. Cheers.
All right. Well, on that note, what's our final thoughts here on the Lomo de Cerdo, the pork tenderloin tuxla from Tatuaje?
Nom nom.
It's almost gone.
Dave likes it.
Very, very.
Oh, look
tasty.
at that!
Very
You,
tasty.
you're actually beating me.
Oh.
I'm usually
Nom nom. It's almost gone.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the new thing.
Pat is slow smoking it.
To be fair, he did a lot of talking though. So
He did.
Yeah.
He did. But that's good.
this is one of those. If you're not actively talking, you're puffing it down.
And you were pleased with your pairing?
Well, it wasn't my pairing, but yes, it was very pleasant. It was like I think Pat had mentioned.
That's
like,
true.
Oh, this is the
Pat-
new wine in
Pat-
the lounge.
Pat had the
Pat's been
idea.
on a
That's
big
right.
wine kick, and Pat's never the
What's
one to be
gotten
drinking.
you on a wine kick, Pat? I mean,
I've always liked wine. It's very similar to tobacco. So I
for
just
the last 3 years since I was legally able to drink, I've really enjoyed wine.
I like wine. It's good. I honestly think I mean, not every wine is going to go well with a cigar, but
No, but I do think this is great. You know, we do so many bourbons, scotches, you know, browns. You know, we do probably after that would be tequilas. You know,
Gin.
we've done a lot of beer, but this is probably the second time we've done wine.
That makes it even
on the
more
show.
impressive, though. It's it's a harder match to make. So
Mm-hmm.
when it's made, like even when it goes down to like our rep Tyler coming in and trying to find something that suits us, like it's you kind of have to know what's up on both sides to successfully do that.
All right. Well, I think we all agree this cigar is definitely worth finding. We were fortunate, you know, Kurt and Pete are very good friends, so we always have a lot of his special release. And we've got a lot in stock. So if you're looking for it, come by Twins. I'm sure
Yeah, baby.
you will be able to get your tenderloin satisfaction. At this point in the show, we're going to switch, and we're going to talk about another new release.
Oh, yes, baby.
This is the third in a series of blends that Kurt Kendall is putting out under his 724 banner. It's called 724 Briary Blends. And this is called Dexter's Secret Pipe Tobacco. And let me read you the tin description here. A generous base of Cyprian Latakia is expertly layered with Virginias and Burleys, spiced with genuine St. James Perique, and then carefully pressed and cut into flakes. The result is a truly refined English-style blend with notes of cream, smoked mesquite, hints of citrus, with a rich fig-like sweetness on the finish. A versatile, medium-bodied blend that can be enjoyed with your morning coffee, at the end of the day with a dram of your favorite whiskey, or any time in between. This is the third in a series of blends that Twins has put out under the 724 banner. It is manufactured and blended for us by Jeremy Reeves, the head blender at Cornell and Diehl. And this literally just landed Saturday at Twins. And I think for everybody here other than myself who was at the Pipe Club where this was launched on Saturday, I think this is everybody's first time having it. And so
It's mine. Yeah.
I thought that, when Pat suggested the wine for the cigar, I had it in my thought that it would probably also go very well with the pipe tobacco. I think the flavors are going to be very complementary. We'll see if I was right or not. But one of the things I really like about this particular blend is that there's a lot of flavors going on, but it's not an assault on your palate either. So for me, English blends are probably the things I smoke the least. And as a cigar smoker, that's kind of weird. Usually cigar smokers tend to gravitate toward the English blends because that Latakia gives that strong, dark flavor profile that you often get with cigars.
Yeah.
And for me, a real strong Latakia-based English blend kind of takes over my palate, and one bowl is about all I can do, and then I'm done. It's like having a rich dessert. Sometimes, when you have a really super rich dessert, where normally you might go back for a second piece of the cake or whatnot, sometimes one is enough. Sometimes one is too much. And that's kind of the way it is with me with a lot of English blends. This, however, I can repeat. And to me, that says a lot about how this blend is put together. But before we talk any more about that or whatnot, I'd like to know what you guys think.
I'm getting a lot of sweetness, like that figgy. It's also creamy, and it's got a nice warm spice to it too, and it's kind of savory to me, which I think is going to go again really well with the wine.
Brie.
So I'm going to do that thing that I do again. I think way back when, at one point, there was a pipe tobacco we smoked that I really liked, and I described it as having a fresh linen effect on the back of the palate. So my little, that was that coming through in this. So I think on the initial light, it's way on the lighter side than most of the pipe tobaccos we smoked. I feel like it's very mild, but it still has the complexity you were talking about. I also got a little bit of the sweetness, and now those more like figgy kind of mesquite flavors are starting to come through. But they're still subdued, and they're all complementing each other. There's no spice, there's no intensity. It's not overwhelming the palate, but it's playing on a lot of that sweetness, and I think it's going to go great with the wine as well.
So far, I've had it, just took a sip of the wine and then a couple of puffs on the pipe, and I think the pairing is going to go very well. I'm interested for Pat's impressions, since I think he has the most discerning palate of all of us.
Very true, very true.
Yeah, so even though I don't hit the pipe as much as you guys do, I do know what I'm talking about. So typically I feel when I'm smoking a pipe, I lean towards a Latakia forward blend just because I like that leather and like that kind of darker earth component. But one of the detriments I find in Latakia blends is my palate at least picks up on during the retro. You can call it mineral. I say it's more of a metallic kind of aroma. And then when the smoke seizes out of your nostril and you get the finish, that's when that leather comes in. But that it has like that kind of, to me, an evasive kind of metallic retro.
Okay.
So with this specific blend, I didn't listen to anything Dan said, so I don't actually remember what's in it. I know it's Latakia, St. James Perique.
Yeah, Latakia.
Is there any Virginia in here?
Yes.
There is. Okay, so I picked that out of it.
And Burley, too.
So the thing about this tobacco that I'm noticing is it has kind of a raspberry jam sweetness to it, but it's not a really... It's not a huge factor in the actual overall component of the tobacco. But on the retrohale, I'm getting that leather early, and instead of getting that metallic kind of texture to it, I'm getting more of that kind of tarty kind of jam. So it's mixing well with the Latakia, so it's kind of, to me, expelling those impurities I typically get in a retro from Latakia. And then following that on the palate, I get kind of a, I want to say it's kind of a hay, and then that, raspberry jam still lingers there. I do get a little bit of citrus that comes late finish, which would go well with a beer, obviously.
Yep.
So I haven't had the pairing yet, but then there's a little bit, like that Perique just sits on your tongue for the finish, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of that spicy sensation. It's kind of I'd say it's a brown spice, but it's more of like a stimulating, typically brown spice to me has more of like those kind of sweet kind of baker notes. This one has kind of a ginger, like a ginger kind of spice that sits on your tongue. So I haven't had
I
the
can
drink
appreciate
yet, but I
that.
feel like just because that kind of causes you to salivate a little bit, I think the wine itself, since it's not really a dry cab, but it
Right.
does have that kind of dry.
Yeah, it's like a
Really is a middle of the road.
yeah
like
middle
you
of the
said.
road dry. It's like the perfect amount of it.
Between both of these pairings, as much as I don't prefer to start or end my night with excessive wine, I would absolutely come in and revisit this with other things. Like this wine is just going great with both of these things. tonight. Yeah.
So you're liking how it goes with the tobacco here?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Those kind of sweet Perique, kind of almost raisiny kind of sweetness that you're talking about, Pat, that it leaves on the palate, of course, goes really well with red wine, which, those tannins and then that sweet kind of raisiny spice just kind of, it's a perfect combination there.
You get having the wine. So I didn't mention you do get that Perique spice in the retro. I should have mentioned that. And it's like it's not an invasive Perique spice, but it's just enough to kind of open your nose up when you're retroing.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And on the tongue now, like I said, you had that kind of figgy kind of simulation in your tongue.
Yep.
Again, it's wine, but like when you have a grape peel, that's kind of sourness you have from the grape peel. That's what's left on my tongue, which is really interesting. It's not bad. It's like
No, it's very
this-
pleasant.
like sour. When people hear sour, they think, oh, it's bad. No, but it's like a really good mouthfeel.
Tangy.
You know what I mean?
almost.
Like it's just kind of adds that feeling to the experience. Like it's very pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tangy sour that almost makes you salivate some, which I think actually helps enjoy the wine more. You guys experience that too?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It seems to bring out some more of the flavors and complexities in the wine.
I feel like this tobacco brings out more of that straight grape flavor in the wine too, like the grape. Almost like
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. So this whole Briary Blend series, it's kind of funny. It started really as a kind of a
joke.
Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better word, it was like, we've got a strong, growing pipe community here at Twins. Pipe and tobacco events here do just as well as even the high-end cigar events that we do here. And at one point, I remember seeing from one of the reps a tobacco tin that had been made just for a pipe show, and it was one of 216 tins, and it got me thinking. Well, if they can make runs that are that small, could they make stuff for us? And so Kaz Walters, who is the kind of the head of sales over at Loud DC Enterprises that owns Cornell and Diehl, and I started talking about it, and it became, this might be an interesting thing to look into. And once we realized that, given the right conditions, this might be something that they'd be open to, we pitched the idea to Kurt. And, Kurt's obviously he's a savvy business guy and a total tobacconist but he's a cigar nerd. He's not a pipe guy. And so I was, curious as to whether or not he would actually be willing to come on board with us and see if we could bring this to reality. And to my very pleasant surprise, I didn't even have to really fight with him. He thought the idea was great. So that led to our first blend coming out a little over a year ago.
Boston Tea Party.
Boston Tea Party,
Yep.
which flew off the shelves. I mean, we were surprised. Loud DC was surprised. Everybody was surprised. And, the people who reviewed it, pipe guys who reviewed it, gave it, the top ratings, and we really flew through the initial release of that, and then we kind of hung on the coattails of that and came out with a Virginia Perique. The Boston Tea Party's a Burley blend. Came out with a second blend called Queen City, which is a Virginia Perique, and to me, it's one of my favorite Virginia Perique blends that's out on the market. It's dark, it's grapey. It would be another blend that would go very well with this wine, actually, because of how it is. And then the third blend we wanted to come out with was an English blend. We know that this is a big cigar shop, and if cigar people also do pipes, they tend to go for English blends, so it seemed like a natural thing to do to go that way. And we wanted to do something other than the ribbon blends that we'd been doing, so we wanted to try something different. And so we actually looked at this blend as a crumble cake and as a flake. And kind of like the whole Pete Johnson thing, how you changed the wrapper leaf and you make incredible changes to the cigar. You change the priming of the wrapper leaf, you change the cigar. With the pipe tobacco, the difference between the crumble cake version of this and the flake version of this, which is pressed together and under several tons of pressure for about a week, the difference between the two blends was night and day. The Latakia is much more pronounced in this blend. You get a lot deeper notes than you did in the other. And the other one was good, but this was, we felt, great. And, it took a little bit for this to get together. Jeremy's a real busy guy. He's been going all over the place. It seems like, for a guy who never did events, once he came to Twins last summer, he's been doing events all over the earth since then. I don't think he's been in one place twice for more than 2 weeks. Dead serious, following his Instagram and stuff since he did our dinner. I really don't think he's been 2 weeks in any one place. Yep. It's been crazy.
And the fact that he's already in the books for us.
He's already in the books. He booked
on the day that he came. He was like,
he was very excited about it at TPE. He's like, I can't wait to get back to the shop.
He's wicked pumped about it.
You guys.
And actually, that dinner is going to be around this tobacco. He's going to do another blending demonstration, and we're going to smoke the components for Dexter's Secret. And he's going to show us how that happens, talk about the pressing and how that works. And again, we're going to have a great dinner with that. That's going to be a great time.
Tom Abbott, who's watching, just packed his pipe with Dexter's Secret, and he says this is fantastic.
Yeah, we just got it Saturday, and we had our monthly pipe club on Saturday, so it was very timely. Thank you, Kaz, for getting the stuff there for us, and literally sold through half of the case that showed up for that. And just another little side note, Dexter's Secret, what does that mean? Our blends after Boston Tea Party are all kind of inside historical facts or things related to 724. And one of R.G. Sullivan's cigars that he came out with in addition to the 724 was the Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
And 724 at the time was the high-end 10-cent cigar. The Dexter was the lower-end 5-cent cigar. And so the kind of the little play on things and maybe even the inside joke or tweak that I'm given, knowing that Kurt isn't a pipe guy, is that there's Dexter's Secret, and it was this English blend pipe tobacco that of all of the pipe tobacco that there is, English tobaccos are the ones that Kurt can't stand. He's actually, his description of it is it smells like burning hair. And, so, but kudos to Kurt too for, seeing the success that the pipe business has had at Twins and seeing what people want and being willing to put the time and money and resources into bringing something to market that a lot of people are going to enjoy, that he will not personally enjoy because it's just not his thing. And, nothing is everybody, no matter how great a thing is, no thing is everybody's thing. But I really appreciate Kurt being willing to put in the time for this. And I'll stop there with my little blur preaching about the Dexter secret. I'd like to hear more what you guys think, if you guys have any questions going forward.
Well, I think the pairing so far is going magnificently.
I just
Really
can't
good.
help but think of the TV show.
Which
Dexter's Lab.
Dexter.
Well, no, not the cartoon.
Oh,
the
the Dexter,
show.
Dexter, yep.
But yeah, Dexter does
Yep.
have a secret. He's a serial killer. But nobody knows. Oh.
The only tasting note I can add is lavender. I'm getting like a kind of a pine cone, which
A pine cone lavender.
well, it's a wine tasting note, lavender. This is the barrel finish, but it's lavender basically breaks down a pine cone, like a floral pine cone.
The room note is really incense like. As a matter of fact, one of our regular pipe guys is a retired Greek Orthodox pastor, and he has been pumped about this coming out. He was one of the guys I let try the test blends as we were picking them, and this to him, the room note for him reminded him of the incense that they use in their church service. So for him, he smokes it. He feels like he's, back in the house of God, And I thought that was awesome.
That is awesome. Oh, this is really good.
It just made the pagans all really quiet here.
This wine is amazing.
Yeah, everything's been really good. Great tobacco. Right now, this is available at Twins. You can call. We ship stuff everywhere, so obviously you can get this stuff. Kurt did work out where from this point forward, he's going to be able to offer this tobacco to any store in the country that has a 724 account. So while right now it's only available here because this is where it all got sent, I think in the future it might very well be possible for you to see this and the other two blends that are out. We're actually working on two others. A dark fired Kentucky blend, and we're working on an aromatic blend as well. That's going to be well, I'm not going to say any more about it, but it's not vanilla, and it's not raspberry.
Bourbon,
It's not bourbon.
And it's not cherry.
It's not cherry either.
apple,
It's something you
Sour apple.
don't
Apple.
see a whole lot of. No,
Apple.
it's not
Baking
apple.
spice.
maple.
It's not baking spice.
Bacon.
It's not baking spice. It's not bacon.
Bacon spice.
No bacon. That's already been done. It's already been done. But those, and hopefully those two blends, they're in the wicked early stages right now. But hopefully by the time PCA comes around, we'll have them both out. And then at that point, I think we'll start really pushing this stuff on a national level, which would be freaking awesome. But we open up several different tins at Pipe Club on Saturday. This being one. GLP's Geometry, which also came out this last week. And The Beast, which has been out for several weeks now. That hasn't been released in a couple of years. And Dexter's Secret was, by the little bit that was left in the tin, was obviously the favorite. Everybody enjoyed smoking that the most, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody loved it. People bought tins of it while they were here. Another great sign. So there you go.
Fantastic.
Wunderbar.
So final thoughts on this here as we come to the end of our show.
I really like the play between the tobacco and the wine. The wine is kind of dry. The tobacco makes me salivate. The wine isn't too dry, or it just overpowers the tobacco. It did just as well with the cigar. As far as like my favorite pairing,
I was going to ask.
I don't even know. I don't even want to choose. I think this was just a really,
Really good both ways.
really good
Yep.
both ways.
What about you, Bree?
I would agree with that. Really enjoying, as Pat was talking about, the retrohale on this one, but I also feel like it complements the wine in the exact same way that the cigar did. So it's really, if you were choosing between these two pairings, a matter of if you're in the mood for a cigar or you're in the mood to maintain your pipe.
Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said enough about it. It's definitely really good if you want to try a Latakia blend without it being really aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, the pairing's phenomenal, and it's good that you guys gave the feedback, because, I mean, we drank damn near 12 wines to choose one for this shop, so it's good that, I picked it because I think it goes very well with tobacco, and it's good to see that both the tobaccos we smoked tonight, it went well with the wine, so it reinforces that.
Nice.
Well, I definitely think both pairings were great. I'd give the edge to the pipe tobacco myself. I think the way they interact was a little bit better, but both were phenomenal pairings. I'm glad to see there's a good wine at the shop too. Not everybody's always in the mood for a bourbon, or a scotch, so it's nice to have choices, but there you go. So the pork tenderloin, Dexter's Secret, both great stuff. We'll be back next week. I don't know if we're going to be out here on the deck, but we'll be back here next week, 8 o'clock Tuesday night. Don't miss it. Thanks for being with us. You've been listening to Not Just Blowing Smoke, the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twins Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and keep in touch with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke. Thanks for listening, everybody, and that is Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Roll